EAA Chapter 166 in Hartford, Connecticut. It's the home of the Van's RV-12 build, here with Rick Montero. And Rick, you know, his first flight of this RV-12 was in a not too distant future. Got me thinking about the history of light sport airplanes in general and the bad old early days of these things where a lot of light sport models just didn't hold up well in the runway environment. The RV-12 is sort of an exception, and part of that is because of the large fleet size. Nearly 900 of these things in the world, and Vans has a bunch of service bulletins to existing kits that we've done to this airplane. How does it make it more durable, you think?
Yeah, I think it, does quite a bit. So it addresses all the issues that they've been finding over the years while these aircraft are flying, and they're included in a lot of the flight schools these days as SLA kits, and those things obviously have to be fairly durable because, students aren't always very gentle with these aircraft, while they're learning to fly. So over the years, Vans has encountered some issues, and they've tried to, address them through service bulletins. So we've taken advantage of that learning, and we've incorporated some of the upgrades in those service bulletins. Like one of the big ones that we did was the landing gear. We beefed up the landing gear using one of the service bulletins, which was actually optional. It wasn't mandatory, but since we knew that we were going to have some student members in our flight club that are going to be part owners of this aircraft, we wanted to take advantage of that service bulletin and include that in this kit. So, it includes a lot of additional hardware, that, strengthens basically the whole landing gear beam. So there's some additional reinforcements that we installed. In addition, we've also installed the new nose gear leg, which was a beefed up design because of there were some issues encountered with fleet aircraft. And we've also included the upgrade of the engine mount, that I think they had observed some cracking in some of the welds in the engine mount, so we've included that. The horizontal stabilizer, we've included that had a service bulletin for the forward spar in that. And also there was a service bulletin not too long ago about the counterbalance weight. The beam that holds the counterbalance weights for the horizontal stabilizer, there had been some cracking or some issue like that on those, and we incorporated the service bulletin on that to reinforce that so that those counterweights don't have an issue. So we've tried to incorporate as many of the the service bulletins as we can, given the fact that we're still in the build process, and it's much easier to address some of these service bulletin upgrades while you're in the build process than it is to do it after the fact.
1,320 pound gross weight limit. It doesn't matter how beefy the airplane is. And for a lot of pilots, it's a lot lighter than any airplane that they've ever flown. Ready for a little road trip?
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
And we came down here to Florida to do some training in an RV-12 IS. It's an RV-12 IS that's been on the flight line here at Sebring Aviation for a while. Both Rick and I had a chance to fly it a few hours with the chief flight instructor, Jason Wilkinson. Both walked away with a pretty good understanding of what it takes to fly an RV-12. We're both pretty comfortable with it. Jason says we're good to go. First impressions, what do you think, Rick?
I think it was a great experience. I highly recommend that anybody making a transition into an aircraft, especially from certified aircraft to light sport, anything like that, you get the transition training. It's well worth it. Gets you the experience you need and familiarization with the aircraft and how it handles, all the avionics in the aircraft. But it was a blast. We had a great time flying the aircraft, learning its intricacies, but in general, the RV-12 is very easy to fly. You can quickly pick up, how to handle the aircraft. It's very nimble, so it's very responsive, so it doesn't take much in terms of, inputs to the controls. The thing that you have to get used to with it is on taxiing, you're basically using differential braking a bit to keep your direction and make turns and stuff, because you don't have a lot of rudder authority. But once you've got the power in and you're on takeoff, you get that rudder authority and climbs out very well. In terms of, we did some air work after climb out, and we headed a little bit southwest. We did some steep turns, we did stalls, and then just some general flying just to get the feel for the aircraft. And gotta say, like I said before, it handles very well. In terms of control, just very subtle movements required. It's like putting it into a 45-degree steep turn. It's just, you move the stick just a couple of inches and you're at 45 degrees, and if you're not careful you can over control, so you've got to just fly with just a couple of fingers on the stick is all it takes. You have a great view while you're flying the aircraft. The avionics, you can quickly pick that up as well.
These aircraft do fly differently than what you're used to. And so you need to come get training specific to the aircraft, to the style that you're going to fly. So a couple of things that we really see in the light sport world is the control response is very brisk. This is a 2-finger airplane. You put 2 fingers on the stick and that's how you control it. If you ham fist it, it's really going to be a wild ride, as we say it. Secondly, gross weight 1,320 pounds per regulation. And so there really isn't much inertia to a light sport aircraft. So guys who especially fly the jets and heavy aircraft, you come over the threshold, you pull to idle and you wait to land, you'll stall this plane and it will pancake and you'll do damage to the gear. So you've got to fly these planes kind of ultralight style onto the runway with a little bit of power. But that's something you get in transition training. You learn your plane, you learn the power off characteristics, you learn the control harmony, and you do that with us here doing LSA transition.
So Jason, you've seen a lot of pilots transition into this RV-12 and LSAs in general. You get a lot of experience in the light sport market. What are some of the traps that an older pilot stepping out of a high-performance airplane? Maybe it's a Malibu, maybe it's a 210, maybe it's a turbine. What happens when you get into a small airplane like this high-tech RV-12?
Sure. Well, a couple of things. Number one, you mentioned high-tech. So a lot of guys, even though they're flying a more heavier aircraft, maybe a 6-pack, maybe old steam gauges with a less capable GPS. They step into something that's like this Garmin setup with a G3X, GTN 750 autopilot. So that could be a trap. Got some avionics training, need to catch up. Other things is just simple physics. This airplane's much lighter. Its control forces are much lighter. As you can see, just doing this, just with a couple of fingers, we get a lot of roll rate, a lot of maneuvering in the aircraft. So when you fly into your pattern, when you come into land, you come into flare, you don't want to pull the power back too early. That can be a common. Pull the power back, start to get the nose up. You really bleed that speed off early.
So to show you the situational awareness this airplane can give you, you've actually loaded the RNAV approach into runway 1 in Sebring, and it's got Garmin synthetic vision. We've got the familiar boxes.
Highway in the sky.
Highway in the sky, providing us guidance right down to the runway.
In addition, Lockwood, we don't just do LSA, we don't just do private, commercial, CFI training, IFR training in these aircraft. We also work for Phil Lockwood. Phil Lockwood invented the AirCam. And so we do AirCam training. We have 2 different segments of AirCam training. Number 1 is AirCam transition training in the tailwheel AirCam. So if you're buying an AirCam or you just want to be trained in an AirCam, you don't have to be buying an AirCam, we'll give you a course, 5 hours of training, where you go out and we fly around in the tailwheel AirCam, and we do the full training of the landings, of the wheel landings, the 3-point landings, go up and do all the air work. Also, we have Chiquita, 51 Sierra Charlie, that is our seaplane. We have a LOTA from the FAA that allows us to do multi-engine sea training if you hold a multi-engine land rating. It's a 2-day course. You come down, 2 days plus a check ride. You come down and we hit all these lakes in Central Florida. As we've said before, Florida weather is good year-round. A little hot in the summer, but right now it is the middle of February and it feels great. We're all standing in shorts and it's 75 degrees. Great time to go fly seaplanes and hit all the lakes of Central Florida, look at the alligators, and get a multi-engine sea rating while you're at it.